So here are the myths about this aging society that we're going to have. The first myth is that America's aging society will be a transient demographic phenomenon caused by the baby boom. Everybody knows this. So what they tell us is, Jack, relax. It's going to be okay. The baby boom is moving through our society like a swallowed mouse through a snake. And when it's past, we will be back to where we were before. You don't really need to worry about it. We can't change public policy to deal with or compensate for this transient event. Bear with me with this. This is really a fun slide. So here we have people, millions of them, and here we have different age groups, 0 to 4, 5 to 9, and so on, up to over age 85. And here we have years. Blue is 1900. So this is what the population of the United States looked like in 1900. This is what demographers use. This is their approach to displaying the population. It's called, for obvious reasons, a population pyramid. And by convention, women are always on the right, and men are always on the wrong. And what we have here in 1900 is a very nice pyramid. And then what we see in 1950 is we see this kind of funny, it goes down and then it goes out here. There's this kind of bulge here. And those are the youngest of the baby boomers. The youngest baby boomer was born in 1946. So those are the youngest of the baby boomers. If we move to 2000, here's our baby boomers. Here they are. See that bulge? And if we move to 2050, here they are. And this is 85 and up, so it consolidates several 5-year slices, so it exaggerates this effect. And of course, women live longer than men. But if you forget these baby boomers, what you see is, compared to the population structure we had in 1900, we have a permanent, fundamental increase in life expectancy in the United States. This is not about the baby boom. The second thing that influences policy is a belief that to be old is to be sick. That used to be the case. But aging has changed in America. When I used to teach medical students, I showed them a painting by James McNeill Whistler, which he called Arrangement in Black and Gray, which became known as Whistler's Mother. Whistler's Mother, as you all are familiar, is a painting of a frail, older woman with a black dress and a white lace cap, sitting in a chair, looking forlornly toward the wall. And I would ask my medical students, how old is this woman? And these are budding, astute clinicians, so they would have an average estimate of 84, 86. Whistler's mother was 67 when he painted that painting in the second half of the 19th century. That was 67 years old at that time. And in those days, it was true that to be old was to have diminished capacity. But times have changed. So here is some data from 1983 to 2005 on 2 surveys that are done every 2 years. And these are surveys, one is called the National Health Interview Survey, National Long-Term Care Survey. These are surveys that measure different types of functionality that individuals have. And this is for people over 65 or over 70. And what you see is a steady 1.5% reduction in the percentage of the population that is disabled in these 2 surveys. And they measure different things. and different age groups, so it's not surprising that they start at different levels, but they are parallel in their decline. And what this means is that there are currently 4 or 5 or almost 6 million older Americans who are not disabled, who would have been disabled, who would be disabled if the rates in 1982 were prevalent now. That's a dramatic difference. Now, there is some data recently published by a professor at UCLA, Teresa Seaman, and a professor at USC, Eileen Crimmins, suggesting that over age 65, this is beginning to turn around for those 65 to 70, but not older than that. And that's an interesting observation. But the fact is that to be old is not to be sick. In fact, the data are so striking that it turns out that age is not the best predictor of whether you're disabled or not. The best predictor of whether you're disabled is how long you went to school. So here's a slide that shows the proportion of the population in very good or excellent health with age for those who had less than a high school education, those who had a high school diploma, and in a very poorly chosen color, those who had some college or more. Let's say at age 60. At age 60 in America, if you have less than a high school education, you have about a 25% chance of being in very good or excellent health. At the same age, if you have some college, you have about a 65% chance of being in very good or excellent health. It is, in fact, a better predictor than age. Now, what is it about education? I don't know that even it is education. Maybe education is a proxy for socioeconomic status or some other variable, but the point is there are things that you can change in society. You can't change age, but there are things that you can change in people's experience that have a dramatic impact on their likelihood of being well. The third myth is that the key age group in an aging society is the elderly. Now, anybody here who thought that was true, that's okay. It's understandable. But actually, if you think about what we're talking about, we're not talking about the aging of individuals. We're talking about the aging of society. And if you go to Europe, which aged ahead of us, largely because we had a baby boom and they had a baby bust after World War II, what you find is that as the population of elders grew and the entitlements grew, and they are quite dramatic, especially in Greece and Italy and Portugal and some other countries, they were paid for not by increased taxes, they were paid for by reductions in educational expenses in the national budgets. So the most interesting age group in an aging society in Western Europe are the youth, because they are the population that is most under stress, not the elderly. So what we have to do is we have to think about the intergenerational issues, and we'll get to that a little more later.